Now that we have finished the sweater, in this lesson we will simulate its chords. We're making great progress so far. Let's go ahead and move back to our neutral pose on frame 0. We'll press Ctrl A to switch back to the channel box and view the chords. Now I'd like to point out something that's very important and really cool. Let's see if we were experimenting with different cloth values and we saved out several cache files. But then when we reopen our scene, we notice that the cloth either isn't following properly or isn't following at all. Well, remember, the cache file has already been saved out, so as long as it hasn't been overwritten, what we could always do is select your cloth object, move to the attribute editor, and find the cache tab. So here's where we can go ahead and navigate to the base directory that our cache has been saved in. If we were to go ahead and switch this directory, let's say to our scenes folder, I'll go ahead and choose open. I'm going to close this out, and I'll go to a random frame. You'll see that the sweater will no longer follow. However, watch this. If we were to go ahead and now fix the directory to look at data, sweater, and choose open, and see now everything will follow just fine. Really fun. Okay, so now it's time to work on the chords. So after we have converted them to an endcloth object, the challenge is to figure out how to connect them to follow the deformations of our sweater. I'm going to show you a really cool constraint we can use to have that happen. But first things first, we need to convert them into an endcloth object. Very important. All right, so let's say we go ahead and do that. We'll head over to Panels first and choose Save Layouts and grab the Perspective Outliner view. All right, great. So with the mesh still selected, we'll choose End Mesh, Create Endcloth, go to the options. We're using the same settings, and take a look at that. Maya will automatically choose the current nucleus node in our scene, which is exactly what we want to use. Things like the space scale for this node have already been set, so we're good to go. Let's go ahead and choose Create Cloth. Okay, so now we can go ahead and rename this. That's going to be endcloth underscore chords underscore pig01. All right, great. Now, since we have an idea of how our endcloth parameters work, we can go ahead and kind of speed up setting up the simulation for this object. Let's tear off our attribute editor, and let's choose a cool preset for our chords. I find that the t-shirt preset is a good starting point. So we'll go ahead and choose Replace. And now, just starting from the top, we can start to change a few of our settings here. I'm going to go ahead and dock the attribute editor again. And underneath collisions, let's take a look here at our thickness channel and the self-collide. So we'll turn on our solver display. Let's go ahead and take a look at our initial thickness. I'd say that's pretty good. We might want to increase this to about 0.3. Great. Now the self-collide setting, let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll choose self-collision thickness under our solver display. That's set to about 1. I might want to decrease this just slightly so it kind of matches the size of the chords, but there's a little bit more thickness to our self-collide channel, just so we can avoid the chords kind of snagging on our sweater and also bunching up way too much. All right, so I might go ahead and just round this value out to 0.5. And now we can scroll down to friction. You can see here that this is up too high. We do not want our chords to snag, but we still want some slight friction, so I might go ahead and drop this to about a value of 0.03. Great. All right, so now we can start to adjust our resistance channels. We do not want a spaghetti effect, so we need to increase our stretch and compression resistance channels. Let's go ahead and set the stretch to about 100% so that they don't stretch outside of their current length. And then the compression resistance, again, we'll go ahead and bring that up quite a bit. But the bend resistance, we might leave that alone for now because we do want the chords to kind of coil up as they naturally would, especially when following a dynamic action as they currently should follow. All right, great. So we'll leave that as is. If we need to come back to it, we most certainly can. Let's scroll down until we find our mash channel. Now we don't want the chords to bounce all over the place in a very exaggerated way, so we might want to increase the mass of these objects, let's say to about 1. I think the lift will work, the drag will work. Our damp value. Let's think about this. We want more of a springier effect out of these chords. If our damp value is up too high, they're not going to look realistic at all. So we might go ahead and start with a very low value of about 0.1 or about 0.15. I'm going to go ahead and start there. All right, great. So now we'll scroll down to our quality settings. I think the max iterations are good. We might want to increase the max self-collide iterations. Again, we'll use a value of 40. Great, let's go ahead and choose trap check. Let's go ahead and check for that. We could also work with our self-trap check options. Again, just to make sure that we don't have any interpenetration. Great. As far as our push-out channel goes, again, we'll go ahead and work with a low value of about 0.1. We can start there. And we should be good to go. If you would like, you can scroll up to collisions, and we can always set our solver display to off. That's a distraction. But I think we are now ready to create a new cache file. And just before we do that, let's go ahead and work on constraining our strings so that they don't just fall to the floor. We might as well go ahead and take care of that now. So in order to do this, we'll first go to component mode with the nCloth object selected that we want to attach. Press F8. We'll select the points that we'd like to connect to the mesh they should follow. So I'm going to select these base points. We'll hold down Control-Shift. We'll go ahead and grab the base points here. By holding down Control-Shift, we can go ahead and add points to our selection. Now, we'll right-click and choose Object Mode and shift-select the mesh they should be tied to. And now we can head over to End Constraint and choose the Point to Surface Constraint. We will be using this for the pants as well. I'm going to go ahead and show you a really cool technique for getting the pants to follow properly using this constraint. So we'll be doing that very soon. Let's go ahead and set the name for this object to PTS, point to surface, underscore chords 01. Okay, so now we are ready to create our cache file. I'll go ahead and select the chords. We'll head over to End Cache, create new cache options. I'll go ahead and reset the settings. And again, we'll rename our directory to chords. Let's go ahead and choose create. And I'll pause the video as this simulates. So once the chords have been cached, it's time to run a play blast. So let's say we again just focus on our perspective view. We'll go back to our bookmark. And let's go ahead and start one. Here it is. How cool is that? All right, so now the chords follow the deformations of our sweater. And we're getting some really nice follow-through and overlapping action because of my neat nCloth system. Very fun. Well, guess what? We are done with the chords. What's left? Well, we need to start working on the pants. And then once the pants are finished, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to save these results out as presets so we can save time for other characters. And then afterwards, we'll bring our t-shirt back and then we'll go ahead and do corrections just to make sure that there's no interpenetration before we call our project here finished. So just a few more steps and we will be good to go.